My friends, today I'm going to be sharing my story of my first real awakening, my first real understanding, glimpse, grasp of the fact there was more for me and more in general. I know that in the group this week, one of the things we talked about was what was your big awakening? What was your big event? What was the big thing in your life that gave you that feeling of I have control and that there's more I can do, and that feeling of release of all the things that you thought you'd been up until that point? And so for me, that happened when I was 19, my first real awakening, if you will. And it was at a music festival called Electric Forest in Rothbury, Michigan. I'm going to get to all that, my experience and what happened, etc. But before that, I think it's important to paint the picture from, my entire, as soon as I came to college when I was 17, so my 18th year, 19th year, 18, 19 years old would be my 20th year. And obviously beyond until I was like 23, I was on a consistent amount of drugs, ranging from marijuana every day through amphetamines, research chemicals, steroids, psychedelics, a little bit of everything, sometimes all of it at once. And so when I tell this story, I think it's important to note that when I came to this music festival and when I was on my way to having this experience, I had already been putting myself on the front lines to have experiences. One thing I noticed about myself was that at one point when I was like 19 years old, I was so obsessed with my ego. I was so weak internally. I was a boy. I was a child, and I used the cover of a drug dealer to make myself feel cool, to feel tough, to feel strong. I was the rogue. I was the rebel, right? I had power there, so I thought. But in reality, all that was a cover and a mask to hide who I truly was, to hide the fact that I was a scared boy and that I was afraid to step into my true power. And I hid behind that mask. I hid behind the mask of drugs. I hid behind the mask of manipulation. I hid behind the mask of false confidence, which I guess would be related to manipulation. But especially my 18th year, I had really started to take the drug dealing a lot more seriously when I was at school. And I really started to think a lot more strategically about how I wanted to go about it and how much money I wanted to earn and what I wanted to accomplish before I graduated and the money I wanted to earn. And it was very money focused. I was very much focused on earning money. I was focused on partying. I was focused on being cool. I was so obsessed with the notion that I could make money, and money would give me status, and money would make me cool, and money would allow women to like me, and money would attract friends to me, and money. And there was this really profound experience I had, I believe, when I was a sophomore, so I was 19 years old, where I was in my room at school, and I was grinding up weed to smoke, and I used my school ID to put the weed on because I had like a sticky glass desk and I didn't want it to stick, so I put it on my ID. And I was really high, and I looked at the ID. When I looked at the ID, the weed was covering my face, and so you could kind of see it, but you kind of couldn't. It was like this. And in that moment, I had this really profound realization in that to the outside world, that is what I'd look like. They just see the drug dealer. If I were to be caught today doing what I'm doing, that's what they would see. They wouldn't see me. They would see my mask. Right? And it was one of those moments that I've never forgotten because of how profound it was, and the fact that I was able to realize it at the time is interesting looking back. It wasn't enough for me to change my behavior, to be honest with you, but it was something that I didn't forget, and my inner truth was calling to me and was begging me to stop, and begging me to stop going against who I was, and begging me to stop hurting other people. Not saying that marijuana is something that hurts people, but I do believe that it's something that can be abused, and that many people do abuse it, and that as a dealer, the consistency of people that are coming to you oftentimes are abusing it and making it become something they rely on in their life for whatever it is that they need, which again, I don't have any qualms with it. I just think it's important to note that I still don't believe necessarily that you need anything, right? You might want it, but why, right? And that's a whole other topic. But that was a profound experience that I had, and I think it's important to note that in the year of my life when I was 18, 19 years old, moving into that 20th year, I met a couple people who were much older than me and who were kind of showing me the ropes as far as my business was, and were helping me grow it a little bit and helping me do things the right way. And they were the first people to ever introduce me to psychedelic drugs. And I had a couple experiences before I went to this festival and they were cool, and I really enjoyed them, and it opened me up to some things, but it was nowhere near the power that I experienced, or I should say the level of realization I experienced at this festival. So I just wanted to say, I think it's important to note that working up to this, I thought of myself as a worthless scumbag drug dealer internally underneath the surface, but on the surface I showed everyone that I was a confident, sneaky, manipulative guy that people would just assume is XYZ, and really I have my own hidden agenda at all times. So I think it's really important to note that, like, that's the kind of person that I was. I was Jekyll and Hyde. You didn't know who you were going to get. I didn't know who I was going to get. Some days I woke up and I felt like I was really being aligned with who I was to an extent, and most days I'd wake up and I was like, okay, what's the next move? How can I make this happen? How can I earn more? How can I get better in that regard? How can I be better than this person, right? All about competition, all about this immature masculine energy that I possess, where I'm constantly trying to show off, constantly trying to put others down, constantly trying to beat them, judging them, a whole 9 yards. And when I went to this festival, and like I said, this is all about having this awakening. So when I went to this festival, I really didn't know what to expect. I'd never done, at the time, ecstasy. I'd never done it. I had done Molly that wasn't really Molly, which is MDMA, and it was some street bullshit that really wasn't it. And I had like a huge anxiety attack, and like, I'm not gonna go into that story right now, but it was a fucking mess. But at this festival, I had, like I said, friends that I really trusted and who I thought really knew what they were doing as far as the right kinds of drugs and making sure that they were like the best. I'm not saying that like they're good to do, of course. I'm just saying that knowing the quality, if you are going to partake, make sure that it's the best stuff you can get, because you don't want to have a trippy experience or a bad experience and then be like, oh shit, what did I take? Because that's going to freak you the fuck out. And then you could have some serious issues mentally for periods of time. I know I did at one point. I had PTSD for 2 years from a bad acid trip, but that's not what this is about. This is about my first awakening. And when I went to this festival, I, like I said, had no idea what to expect. At first it was very overwhelming. I remember like showing up and I was like, what the hell's going on? Like everyone's just like rolling up, looking like real run down in the middle of nowhere in Michigan. Like 50,000 people just showed up one day. And I was like, I have no idea what's gonna go down. Like, it's all up in the air. I have no idea what's gonna happen. And we, at the time, there was, I don't know how many of us were, maybe 7 or 8 of us. Anyway, on the first day, I had really had my experience. And we were in the forest, electric forest, and we were sitting in this little spot, and we all started dropping our acid, and took it, put it on my tongue, and I was just like, this is happening. And I like didn't really know what to expect. At the time, I still thought that acid, like, you get fucked up on acid. It's not what happens when you take acid. It's really just a way to become extremely present, almost to the point of, maybe the most aware you've ever been of yourself up until that point, unless you're like a very deep thinker and you reflect on yourself consistently and you are already naturally extremely aware. This is a way for you to become even more aware than that. And that's the best way to put it, is that it's really it's a substance that allows you to become and go way beyond your level of conscious awareness. So able to dive into the depths of your subconscious, unconscious mind and visit who you truly are, and visit the things in the shadows, and visit your skeletons, visit your past, visit all the things that you're not talking about on a daily basis. And so after we dropped the acid, we were hanging out in this little spot, and I'm looking over, and there are police officers like from where I am right now to like that sign, so maybe like 20 feet. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like, they're not going to do shit, are they? They weren't. Anyway, after like 35, 40 minutes, it started to kick in, and I started feeling really goofy, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling really fucking goofy. And then, of course, the trip began, and a variety of things happened. And of course, for those of you who've experienced, like, everything is an adventure. So like walking around is like a whole new thing. Like, everything is a fresh perspective, because you're so aware of the moment that all that exists is what's in front of you. So the way you look at things is different. You look at things in a much more in-depth, enlightened way, which allows you to see things as they truly are. Anyway, fast forward to the spot. That was really the moment. I was really, really high, and I was standing in the middle of this field, And I was listening to this amazing music with amazing, surrounded by really just beautiful souls, just truly beautiful souls. I'm so grateful for those older friends who took me in and really showed me the ropes and helped me introduce me to myself in a way. And I'll never forget, I was standing in the middle of this field, and this is just so relevant because I'll never forget it. It was just the most powerful moment, arguably, of my life, besides another one that I'll get to here in a couple of videos from now. It makes me very emotional thinking about this moment. But from the age of about, as soon as I became conscious, I'd say at like 6 years old, which is like really the time where I feel like I actually start to remember some things. I remember from 9 to 10 years old up until this point, so about 9 years, 10 years, I had really felt like I was an outcast. I was a short, chubby kid in a neighborhood where everyone and all my friends were a few years older than me. I was bullied super hard by them, and I manipulated myself into thinking that if I played along with them and let them beat me up, let them hurt me, let them make fun of me, let them do these things to me, that they'd be my friend. And they weren't, and they just kept beating me up and manipulating me and making me feel like a piece of shit. And so thus I did the same thing and projected that same manipulation, projected those same insecurities, fears, doubts, worries onto my sister. And from the time I was 9 to 10 to like 18, 19, I literally was my sister's worst nightmare and my brother's worst nightmare. And I just picked them apart to shreds because I was unconscious and unaware of myself and didn't realize that all I was doing was the same thing people were doing to me. And I projected that insecurity, inferiority onto my brother and sister. And I made their lives living hell. And I made their lives miserable. And I hurt them consistently every single day. I'd say things to my sister. I'd tell her she's a freak. And at a young age, calling someone a freak consistently over and over again started to build up in her subconscious. And now I'm 26 years old. I look at my sister, and everything that she is direct result of the people that she was around her whole life. And every time I look at her, I look at a reflection of things that I did to her. And probably one of the most, probably out of all the things I've done, what I did to my sister for all those years hurts me arguably the most, because I love her so much, and I can't believe I would ever hurt her like that. And I didn't understand the power of words at the time or what that could do to someone. But when I was in this field and I had this experience, this heightened, enlightened experience where I was so in the present, so in the moment, I remember having this, it was almost like an eruption of consciousness all streamed at once. And in that moment, I realized for the first time in my life, I realized that my family loved me, that my mom and dad loved me. See, my entire youth and upbringing, my dad was a child prodigy swimmer. He was a terrific swimmer, and thus his career wasn't exactly how he wanted it to turn out. And when I was young, he noticed that I was a swimmer, and he started coaching me and treating me the same way his dad treated him. Unconsciously, of course. But he basically acted more as a coach than he did as a dad for a very long time in my life, especially at a young age. And I didn't want a coach, I wanted a dad. And I never felt his love. I didn't think he truly loved me, because the actions he took, the things he didn't align with me. And I never felt that. I always felt like I wasn't good enough. I always felt like no matter what I did, I would never be as good as him. I always felt like the only way for him to show me any affection was if I did what he wanted me to do. And I felt like whenever I was in my own world, that it wasn't what he wanted me to do, and it wasn't aligned with him. And for my mom, she worked so much. She was the you could just we'll say the word breadwinner. I don't really enjoy that word, but we're just going to use it. She was the breadwinner, and she worked in pharma, so we rarely saw her because of the golden handcuffs. So she was out the door by 6:30 in the morning, and she was not home till 7 at night. And she could never make it to any games or any sporting events. She was never able to come be a chaperone for field trips. She was never able to be a guest chaperone for like school parties, etc. And it really hurt me. I felt like I had no connection with my parents at all, no connection with my sister, no connection with my brother. All I had were my friends and these older friends that were bullying me consistently. And I was a very depressed, disgruntled, hurt, and sad child. On the outside, you might not have understood, but on the inside, I was always hurting. I was so self-conscious and judgmental of myself. I was short and I was chubby, and I had fucked up teeth. Like my teeth went like in and out at the same time, and these two are fake. Actually, these three are fake, and it was just embarrassing. And I just felt like no one would ever love me because I did not love myself, because I didn't value myself. I didn't know why I was here. I didn't know what my purpose was. I wasn't thinking about these things. All I could think about was being cool. I so desperately just wanted people to like me because I didn't like myself. And all of those things I mentioned had a factor and a role to play. But when I was in this field and I had this eruption of love, I realized for the first time, and I saw things from my dad and my mom's perspective, and I realized that every single thing they'd ever done was because they loved me. You see, I realized they were unaware of their own actions towards me. I realized that I was responsible for every pain, not every pain, but much of the pain my sister was going through. That I had no connection with her because I wouldn't let myself have a connection with her. That I was incapable up until that moment of unconditional love. I was incapable of loving my family because I was incapable of loving myself. And it wasn't until I had this moment, this eruption of unconditional love from the universe, through my mom and my dad, through to me, through to my sister and my brother, that I looked around for the first time and actually saw things clearly, saw things as they were. The trees looked greener, the air was different, the sounds and the music I was hearing were on another level, and my energy shifted and changed in that moment, and I became whole for the first time in my life. And when I think back to it, it was a beautiful moment. This is a very enlightening moment. Literally in the middle of the field, I just see myself standing there, because I was just standing there, just in awe of everything, of myself, of this existence, of everything I'd ever thought, all the things I'd unlearned in that moment, and who I am. And after that experience, and during that experience, like I said, just finally able to, for the first time in my life, being able to feel love, feel loved, and feel that what I was doing in my life had substance and meaning. Even the fact that I was drug dealing at the time, I was like, no, I'm like helping other people become more aware of themselves, which to an extent could be true. I mean, I will admit that smoking marijuana definitely can help with introspection, but that's, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a drug dealer anymore, obviously. I don't believe in that as an occupation. For me, it's just not something I want to do. But that moment of clarity that I had, that a release of all the unconscious trauma that I had stored inside of me, I finally let it go. I finally accepted who I was. I accepted the fact that I did those horrible things. I accepted the fact that people had done horrible things to me. I accepted the fact that at one time in my life I was short and fat and chubby. I accepted the fact that at one time in my life my teeth were fucked up and I was afraid I would never be able to even kiss a girl because they'd be afraid to even kiss me because my teeth might fall out, because people told me that when I would kiss a girl, that's what would happen to me. For the first time in my life, I accepted the fact that I had taken other people's words for gospel. For the first time in my life, I realized that there was more, that there was a stronger force in the universe, that there was something that I had been missing my whole life. I realized that there was this unconditional love that people had for me that I had never expressed back to them. And it was in that moment that the beginning of myself as I am today, I believe, was reborn. Because when I came back from that event, I have never felt so fresh in my life. I remember walking out of the gym one day with my friend, and at the time I was still super distraught. Before I went to this event, I was still super distraught about this girl that I had dated that dumped me, and it was a really fucked up situation in many different ways for me. I just took things really seriously, and I was unaware of myself and all that stuff. But I remember coming back from this trip, and I like let it go. I was like, no, it's okay. Like, we're just not meant to be, and that's cool. I accept the fact that this happened. It's okay. I'm gonna grow. I have more in my life. This is the beginning of something really spectacular and special. I remember my friend looking at me. He's like, dude, you look really different. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. I saw myself in the mirror and it just was glowing. I was radiant. I had released all of that. And so why am I saying this? Why am I telling you this now? Because one of the things that is essential for us to grow as humans is to accept ourselves, is to accept things that have happened, accept things we have done, accept our past so we can become our present. Because if we're still not accepting of the past, we're living in the past and the present. And it's causing us anxiety and stress. It's causing us all sorts of pain. But once we can accept our pain, accept the things that happened to us, we can become present right here, right now, where this rain, there's no judgment from this rain. It's just rain. Winter is just winter. The birds are the birds. The grass is the grass. There's no judgment. And I'm here. I'm present. I'm aware. I'm holding my sword. I love my sword, man. I'm sitting in the car, and I'm just so grateful. I have my water. We were able to build something special, pillars of growth, mind, body, spirit. So much has changed since that day. So much has changed. But that was my first real true awakening. It was in the middle of a field in Rothbury, Michigan, in an electric forest when I was 19 years old, and I, for the first time in my life, accepted and submitted to unconditional love. I submitted to the fact that people really did love me, and I accepted their love. And when I came home, I was finally able to love my parents and my sister. I've had many conversations with her since, expressing how sorry I was for my behavior and letting her know that she means so much to me and that I love her and my mom and my dad and my brother with all my heart, and I love all humans with all my heart. And it's one of those things with all humans when I say that. I'm predisposed through my conditioning to not love people. Through my conditioning, meaning through the programs that were put in front of my face from the ages of 9 to 19, where I'm constantly comparing and competing and trying to be better, and someone says something that offends me so I don't like them. And it wasn't even until really the last year that I finally realized that I do love them regardless of what they fucking do to me or what they do to other people. I love them on the deepest level of my being, because I know that when I'm at that state of consciousness and that elevated mind and that elevated spirit, I know that I can't not love anyone, because I love all existence. Because love is this is love. This is all love. It's all energy. And that was my first awakening. And there's more to it. Because after that, it's about 6 months to 8 months after, I was for the first time in my life overtaken with greed. So I went from the highest state of my life to the greediest state of my life. And within that greed, I found the true evil that lies within myself. The true evil that almost got me arrested and that almost got many other people hurt, almost got people sent to jail, almost ended up with me being so many horrible things so narrowly avoided. I'm going to go into that because there's more to this story that you need to know about me, and I think it's important that I share who I am with you and share some of my experiences with you, because like I said, this community has the potential to change the world, but nothing's going to change until we change ourselves. And one of the core pillars of growth truths is leadership. Lead and others will follow. It's my job to tell my story and to tell it true. And so I will continue with this, and we'll move into my chapter of greed tomorrow. Much love to you all. If you've had an experience that you'd like to share, feel free to post it below. I'm all ears. I would love to know more about it. You all shared so many beautiful stories this week, and I'm so grateful for them. But for me, that day, beautiful sun on my face, amazing music, amazing people, I recognized unconditional love. And I'm forever grateful for that moment, because it was the first time in my life that I'd ever really accepted who I was, accepted my past, and accepted the present. Much love to you all. Use your gifts, serve one world, legends find a way, peeps. We out here. Peace, peace.